Hey, what's up everybody? It's Jason. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Today I couldn't be more excited because we are talking about an album that I've been looking forward to for a very long time, Chris Stapleton's latest, Starting Over. Alright, so off the bat, this album certainly did not disappoint, and it actually exceeded my expectations, which were, pretty high to begin with. And I can honestly say that this is one of the cleanest albums I've had the pleasure of listening to this year. And in my head, there's really two main reasons for that. The first thing is that throughout all the songs on this album, I don't think there is a single wasted note, either vocally or instrumentation-wise. And essentially what I mean by that is every once in a while, if you're listening to a song, you'll hear like a note or an instrument, just something that feels like it doesn't necessarily belong, or something that feels like it's there just for the sake of being there. It doesn't like add any sort of value to the song musically. But with these songs, I really just couldn't pick out a line or an instrument that just felt like it didn't belong. Everything was so well crafted to the point that it felt like it should have been there, no question about it. And then of course, it's kind of building off of that. Every note that they do have, I feel like they kind of just draw the maximum amount of musicality out of it that they can, whether it's Stapleton's vocals or a guitar solo. It brings out as much emotion or as much I guess reaction, for lack of a better term, from the listener as possible. And it's so rare these days. I feel like a lot of times people are just like more. Whether it's music or movies, they just want more of everything. And every once in a while, people just seem to forget that sometimes it's not about more. It's sometimes just about using what you have to draw out what a person is capable of feeling. And then the second thing is that every song in this album really feels like it has its own personality. I wouldn't classify this necessarily as like a thematic album where all the songs kind of contribute to this overarching theme that the album is going for. But I think what we have here instead is that each of the songs is so kind of self-contained and really focused on being the best version of that song that it can be, that it to an extent, it ignores the rest of the songs on the album. And usually I would like complain about something like that, but here in this case, I think that it's so well done that it really just doesn't matter in the end, because now by the time you get through the entire album, you just have a really amazing collection of songs. And hopefully this doesn't get too meta, but along those lines, I really felt like each song kind of had its own theme within itself. There's a couple of songs on here that I'll point out a little bit later, but off the top of my head, Worry Be Gone, Devil Always Made Me Think Twice, those two in particular. It's like those two songs were just paying homage to like really traditional blues country or blues rock songs, and it's almost like when Tarantino says he directs genre films, you know what I mean? Each of those songs fits the mold almost of exactly what they want it to be, and they do it exceptionally well. Alright, so obviously those were just my overall impressions of the album, and at this point, my impression is just wow. But let's go ahead and dive into a couple of the songs off the album. And full disclosure, I am a little hesitant to do this part. Usually I'm really excited to talk about the individual songs, but this time I'm just so enthusiastic about the album, I guess, that I kind of want people to just go and dive into it and experience the songs for the first time themselves, unfiltered, unbiased, just listen. But of course that's not what we're here for, so let's go ahead and start with the first song off the album, which is also the title track, Starting Over. Alright, so Starting Over, like I said, is the first track off this album, and I think it's actually a really interesting choice to put in that position, just because I would argue that Starting Over is actually the simplest song off the album. And I certainly don't think that's a deterrent to the song. I think it's actually one of its strengths. But from what I can tell from at least an instrumentation standpoint, this was really just kind of a 4-chord progression played throughout the entire runtime of the song, with the possible exception of the bridge. There might be a couple more thrown in there. And this really it actually reminds me of a song that the Steel Drivers would come out with, which was the band that Stapleton was with before he went solo. And all that's basically to say that after probably the third or fourth time listening to this song, its simplicity is really what I came to admire about it and appreciate about it, because I feel like when you have an artist like Stapleton, he has such a unique voice. It's gravelly, it has range, and he can go all over the place with the voice. It's just one of the best right now in country music. I'm sure it would be tempting to utilize that range in like every song that he sings, but luckily they refrain. Of course, there's still dynamics in his voice, and it fluctuates when it goes between like the pre-chorus, chorus, verses, whatever it may be. But they never give into what I would imagine would be the temptation for someone like Stapleton to just kind of blow the roof off the place with every song he sings. They really do a fantastic job of keeping the entire song really even-tempoed. The bottom line is that this song never really overextends, and it's one of those songs you pop in your headphones or you put it on your record player, and you smile when you listen to it. The next song I want to talk about is actually the second track off the album, and it is, I would say, my favorite track off the album, The Devil Always Made Me Think Twice. So what really ended up drawing me to the song, and what will inevitably continue to draw me to the song even after this album review, is that opening guitar riff. That riff is just it's so gritty and it's so unapologetically like blues country that it just draws me in every single time. And of course, like I said, it's the complete opposite of Starting Over. So in this song, on top of that really nitty gritty kind of riff, you have Stapleton just belting it out over top. And the weird thing is, the first and second time I listened to that song, I was so just entranced by the guitar and the voice that I completely forgot to listen to the lyrics. So then the third or fourth time, I actually tried to pay a little bit more attention to that. Not completely successfully. I was still very much drawn in by the raw power of that song. But on top of that, the lyrics were even more of a treat. It's not like anything profound, right? It's nothing someone's gonna get tattooed on them anytime soon. Well, maybe. While the lyrics do follow this kind of pattern and trend and storyline of, you know, devil always made me think twice, devil made me do it, whatever it may be, devil went down to Georgia. It just, you can't, it's just the icing on the cake for some reason. It's exactly as you would kind of expect it to be, but when done in Stapleton's kind of style and expertise, it's taken, I believe, to another level. And my God, if it's just not so much fun to listen to, it's just this like blood boiling, over the top bravado of a song. And I'm probably gonna listen to it right after this. Actually, I cannot express enough how great that I think this song is. So the next song I want to talk about, if I can downshift in tone and mood here, is a track off the album that stuck out to me mostly because of just how sad it made me. Maggie's Song. So if you've already listened to this album, or if you've just listened to this song, you probably are ahead of me and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Do spoilers apply to an album review? Potential spoilers here. Maggie's Song is a song about a dog, and in the end the dog dies, of course, and it just, when done in Stapleton's very excellent storytelling voice, it's the song that probably drew the most out of me emotionally and took the most out of me emotionally. So really the only reason I'm talking about it, usually a song kind of done in this style or done almost with this tone and production, you've kind of heard it before. It's very simplistic, just a solid bass line running through it and there's some acoustic guitar on top, the like occasional slow drums, slow snares in the background, but basically it's the dog. The dog got me. Again, Stapleton just has such a great storytelling presence about him and a storytelling voice that you can't help but either picture or like or I guess that's the same thing, but you can't help but kind of go along the journey with him as he's telling it to you. And by the time you get to the end, man, it's just like,
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
You just can't help it. But we will move on from this. It's just, I guess, prepare yourself for Maggie's Song. Alright, so the next song I want to talk about off this album is a song called Worry Be Gone. So this is one of the songs I was referring to earlier when I was talking about almost like genre tracks off of this album. It takes that very iconic blues riff, and I want to say it's from Chicago, but I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out what the name of the song was or the artist who originally played it, but it's this. Alright, so I think it was done in a different key in the song itself, but now you know what riff I'm talking about, that really just iconic blues riff. And please, for the love of God, if you know the name of the song that it's from or the artist that originally played it, please just let me know below. I have no idea and I'm going to be scratching my head for the next couple of days. But anyways, when it comes to kind of like the genre song, as I was talking about, they take stuff like that, stuff that has such heritage and such history in the music world, and somehow they take it, and while paying tribute to that, they add their own spin and they make it their own, and they just, it's a very Stapletonized version of that kind of a song, if that makes sense. And to me, it just, there's nothing in it that doesn't scream that this is exactly what he wanted the song to be. And you really just can't ignore the artistry and the passion for the music that comes with making a song like that. Alright, so as far as negatives go for this album, I really don't have any that are justifiable. Like, I don't think there's anything on this album that would deter from an overall rating, or that just kind of take away from the artistry or how outstanding of an album this is. But I do have two things that I didn't really like about this album, and it takes place in the form of two songs. When I'm With You and Old Friends. And it's not so much that those are bad songs, it's just that the relatability factor for me personally wasn't there, especially When I'm With You. The first line in that song, I think, is like, I'm 40 years old. And it's almost like Stapleton, well, I guess I can't assume that it's Stapleton himself and that's his perspective, but the character, I guess we can say, of that song, it's almost like he's looking back on a life he's lived so far, and old friends don't have friends. But seriously, those two songs, like I said, I don't think that there's anything wrong with those two songs inherently. I actually really love kind of this talking style that he goes for in Old Friends. It was really kind of refreshing and different. So from like an artistry perspective, I think it was really great in that sense. It's just that those two weren't super relatable for me. But of course, some people would listen to this album and those two would be like their favorite tracks off of it. And it's the beauty of music, everything is subjective, and you can't go into it obviously with my opinions being your opinions. So there we kind of have it. No real negatives for me off this album, just two songs that I couldn't relate to. And with that, overall, I think this album is absolutely phenomenal. Every song is like a center cut sirloin, right? There's no excess fat to trim away. Everything feels like it's in its place and should be there. And then on top of that, like I said, every song, it just shines through its own personality. And every time I listen to it, I feel like there's actually more nuances that I find in each song that make it even more fun to listen to. And I think whether it's, you know, an album, a song, or a movie, whatever it may be, the real key and the real mark of a great album or movie is that when you can go back and you can find new things that excite you. And with this album, I think I'm going to find a couple more. And with all of that said, I think this is actually a very big moment, actually a historical moment for this channel, because I've never been able to do this before. But I think Chris Stapleton's Starting Over is a 10 out of 10. Alright, so that is going to do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of this album, but be sure to let me know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe, be kind. Thank you.